Hey there, you just clicked on First Down Punts. Nice move. This is a podcast about football and how it relates to fantasy football. Hope you like what you hear. We're going to get this thing started. Let's get crazy. And welcome in, everyone, to another episode of First Down Punts. I'm your host, Coach Chris. Today we're going to be going over some trades that have already happened, trades that could happen before tomorrow's deadline. If we're going to jump into this injury news first, though, because there's been some devastating ones. Losing JAYDEN Daniels last night, for me personally on my fantasy team and for the Washington Commanders, it's going to be an issue for them. I don't know why he was in the game. It's the same thing the Vikings did the week prior. It's malpractice. You're not going to win the game at that point. And with the Vikings, it's one thing. Wentz is an older player, veteran, that he wasn't even their original starter. They ended up signing him because McCarthy got banged up. They had already let Darnold walk. Daniel Jones was in Indianapolis. Okay, fine. I could deal with that. He wants to play it out, whatever. Last night, leaving Daniels in, down, 31 points? Your star young quarterback, who's already been hurt twice this year, got banged up last year. You thought it was a good idea with that offensive line and the way they were playing and the way Kingsbury was calling that damn game to leave JAYDEN Daniels in for what? A meaningless fourth quarter garbage time touchdown? Listen, I would have loved it for my fantasy stats, but I don't want to lose my starting quarterback for my fantasy team. Why the hell would you want to lose him? Your young star stud quarterback for your real NFL team is beyond me. So, malpractice again. We keep seeing this, and we keep seeing these dislocated limbs. It's the fourth one this year. I already talked about it last week with the Cam Scadaboo injury. Now Daniel's arms is pointing the wrong way. There's too many limbs pointing the wrong way. I don't know what the hell's going on. There's been some unfortunate situations this year and just tons of injuries. But that one just pisses me off beyond measure, simply for the fact that I like JAYDEN Daniels as a player. He beat my fucking Lions in playoffs last year. And I still like the kid because of how talented he is. Right now, I'm guessing he's out for the season. You got a dislocated elbow. It sounds like nothing was broken, but who knows what's going on with the tendons in that arm. And it is his non-throwing arm. That's the best news possible, that it is in his throwing arm. So maybe he gets back late in the season. But you're 3-6, so at this point, why would you bother? You're not going to come back and make the playoffs. Mariota's played fine, but he's 1-2 in his 3 starts. So chances of making the playoffs are slim, being that you're already 3-6. More than likely, Daniels is out for the season. They let that arm fully recover, let his hamstring recover, everything else that's going on with him this season, and wipe this one away. Now, could they make a trade? Possible. Maybe they go get Kirk Cousins. I don't know. We'll talk about that as we get into these trade ideas. But right now, I just had to – the statement on JAYDEN Daniels I had to make because it pisses me off in fantasy. It pisses me more importantly in real football. I love the kid. I think he's one of the most amazing players coming into the league recently. And to see him not be out on the field because of some dumb shit like this is beyond belief to me. And like I said, it's malpractice. All right. Rest of the injuries that happened this week as we continue to deal with injuries this season, it has been unbelievable how many people are getting hurt every week. We'll kick it off. Aaron Jones, running back for the Vikings, just came back. Now he's banged up again with another shoulder, same problem he had before. Probably going to miss this upcoming week, but he sounded positive after game, so who knows? Maybe they put that brace on. He gets his power brace that he used a couple years ago, and he's Superman again. But right now, I'm waiting to see what the practice reports say this week as far as Thursday and Friday. I don't expect him to practice Wednesday anyways. He's a vet. He knows the offense. Thursday and Friday's practice reports will be more important for that. Matthew Golden, wide receiver for the Packers, the rookie, left with a shoulder injury. Didn't seem severe at the time. We'll see what happens going forward. Maybe he misses a week, but not too concerned at the moment. Big one, Joe Alt, right/left tackle for the Chargers. You see the difference he makes when he's in the game. He got carted off with his ankle injury. He was already dealing with ankle all season. He's already missed time because of it. He got carted off again yesterday. Didn't look good. Guessing he's going to miss at least 3 or 4 weeks, and he might be out for the season. I don't know. We're going to find out going forward, but right now, not looking good for Joe Alt. Michael Hoyt, defensive tackle for the Bills. They lost Ed Oliver last week, but they got him and the kid from Ojibani or whatever it is from the Steelers that they signed. They just got him back from suspension. Michael Hoyt gets to play 1 game, and then he's out again. He suffered an Achilles injury, probably going to be out for the season. CJ Stroud. This goes into I haven't even got into my team's injuries, which maybe I should go through that real quick. Let me cut into this and do this real quick because I'm going to go over what's happened. I've already updated you guys on some of the injuries I've suffered throughout the season. I got them wrote down now. The injury streak continues. This is the post I put out on X if you're on there and follow us at First Down Punts. The injury streak continues. Week 1, I lost George Kittle. Week 2, Jayden Daniels got hurt at the end of the game. Week 3, Terry McLaurin got hurt. Week 4, Tyreek Hill out for the season. Week 5, Quentin Johnson got hurt in fucking practice. And number 1 kicker at that moment, Spencer Schrader for the Colts, goes out during the game, out for the season. Rough week that week. Week 6, I start Calvin Ridley. Had to pick him off the waivers and start him. He gets hurt. He's been out since then. Week 7, Jayden Daniels is back, and then he's gone again because of a hamstring. He misses a week. He comes back. Week 8, Drake London gets hurt in practice apparently and misses the game. And Marvin Mims, who I started over in place of him, goes out with a concussion. Week 9, I just traded for CJ Stroud in a deal, multiplayer deal. CJ Stroud I trade for before the week starts, like hour and a half before the game start, and he leaves with a concussion in the first half. And then I lose Daniels again on Sunday night to a nice dislocated arm injury. So needless to say, my quarterback situation is a little unfortunate right now. We'll see what happens going forward. But this is the luck I've been having this year in fantasy. So my apologies to anybody who has these players. Because apparently whether I draft, trade, or pick up, whoever I can start is going to get hurt. They might get hurt in practice. They might not even make it to the game. But back to the injuries, needless to say. CJ Stroud got banged up with a concussion. Some news on Isaiah Pacheco. I did want to say this real quick. He is projected to be back after the Week 10 bye in Week 11, so that's good news. He's going to be back a little sooner than maybe expected. And then Hassan Haskins was placed on IR if you hadn't seen that yet. Kamani Vidal became the guy again. Didn't do great this week, but all the same, Jared Patterson was the backup there, so that's an interesting thing going on there. That was the other thing I wanted to mention. As far as the Jags go, Brian Thomas left with an ankle injury. This is after they already put Travis Hunter on IR due to a practice injury last week. And Diami Brown left with a concussion. So if you didn't pick up Parker Washington yet, get your ass out there and get him, plain and simple. Tucker Kraft, tight end for the Packers, left with a torn ACL. Luke Musgrave is the backup there. Should be the starter going forward, but tough break for the Packers and a loss they suffered yesterday. Ooh, ugly. The NFC North went 2-2, and it wasn't a team as he thought. Vikings beat the Lions. Packers lost. Bears win at the end over the Bengals on some ridiculous play by Colston Loveland, which, hey, I told you it was coming. He had a breakout, man. With Cole Kmet banged up, who was another guy, Cole Kmet left with a concussion. So Colston Loveland's breakout should continue. Kayshon Boutte, coming off a nice game, leaves with a hamstring injury. My sneaky start, DeMario Douglas, ends up with 100 yards and a touchdown. So good for him. He's another waiver guy. Xavier Legette was checked for a concussion, came back in the game, but just something to pay attention to. You always have those possibility of post-game symptoms and all that. Luke McCaffrey, last night's game, Washington takes another hit with a broken collarbone on a kickoff return. Sucks for him. I like the kid. He's been coming on with McLaurin out. I was expecting him to do something last night. Josh Jobe, cornerback for Seattle. His own teammate knocked him out with a concussion in the last night's game. Marshawn Lattimore, the corner for Washington, left with a knee injury. It's probably better for that Washington defense because he hadn't been playing great this year. But unfortunate for Marshawn Lattimore. He's an older player, and having a knee injury is never good. Puka Nacua left the game yesterday after coming back. They said he could have returned, but they were up big enough that they didn't want to force him back. But something to pay attention to. Ernest Jones, linebacker for the Seahawks, another one in last night's game. Been playing really well this season, left with a knee injury. Taylor Decker for the Lions left yesterday's game. Penei Sewell actually left the game and then came back. He had to go to the locker room and come back. But he ended up finishing the game. He had a shoulder. I don't know if he just went and got a wrapped or got a pain shot, whatever you want to call it, painkiller shot. But all the same, he came back. So something to pay attention to for that Lions offensive line going forward. They did not play well yesterday. Minnesota attacked the shit out of them, and they deserved to win the game based off the way the Lions played. Christian Harris, linebacker for the Houston Texans, left with a shin injury, didn't return. Titus Howard, tackle for the Texans, he left with a concussion. The New York Giants, Bo Collins, the rookie wide receiver, left with a neck injury. You never like to see that. Defensive tackle for the Broncos, Zach Allen, left the game with an injury. Waiting to see more on that, but he's a big player for that defense. They're already missing Surtain. Definitely something they don't want to be missing too long if possible. And then the guard, Ed Ingram, for the Houston Texans, also left this game. I forgot to mention that with Titus Howard with a knee injury. So the Texans' offensive line already rough, now banged up. Just a ton of injuries yesterday, guys. Something to pay attention to for your fantasy teams, for your real teams, your favorite team, your opponent's teams, whatever. Maybe you get a break if you're playing some of these teams that are banged up for your real team. But all the same, we're going to get into these trades. We're going to go over the ones that have already happened during the season this year, and then we'll get into most likely trade candidates, some surprise possibilities, and then just go over what I'm thinking about before tomorrow's trade deadline at 4 p.m. Are the done deals that have already been done, especially with the news this morning of Jalen Phillips being traded. Cam Robinson, the Texans traded him to the Browns. They weren't using him. They could definitely use him now. Adafe Owe, the Ravens had traded him to the Chargers a handful of weeks ago. He's got 4 sacks in 4 games for them. Greg Newsome, the corner for the Browns, was traded to the Jags for their corner, Tyson Campbell. And it looks like it's really affected that Jacksonville defense, man. I don't know what was going on, why they did this deal. I'm sure they expected Newsome to either play as well or better. Right now, the Jags defense the last couple of weeks has been rough, and they were coming off a bye and still looked rough, so you don't like to see that. Joe Flacco obviously traded to the Bengals from the Browns. Tomlin wasn't happy about it. The Bengals fans surely are, though. He was questionable coming into yesterday's game. Granted, they lost his game. He threw for 470 yards, so the shoulders seem to be doing all right. Put some ice on it, get a heat pack, rest it up for the first couple of days a week, and then he'll be ready to go next week. Roger McCreary, the corner from the Titans, was traded to the Rams. Michael Carter II, the corner from the Jets, was traded to the Eagles last week. Keon White, the Patriots made 2 trades last week. Keon White was traded to the 49ers, defensive end, and safety Kyle Duggar was traded to the Steelers. And then before the game, or after Thursday's game, the Ravens traded Jair Alexander to the Eagles. And this morning it comes out Jalen Phillips has been traded from the Dolphins to the Eagles. So I'm going to say this before I go anything. I already posted this on my social media accounts. Why are you helping the Eagles, guys? This is the Patriots all over again. Remember that 20-year run of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick and all those championships? Do you know how they were able to do that? Because teams kept helping them. Why are you helping the Super Bowl champs? I'm going to say this. When a team is bleeding, you don't patch the wound. You rip it open and let them bleed out and let them suffer the consequences of the overstacking or overpaying players, overloading one position with too much salary cap, whatever the case may be. Howie Roseman does a wonderful job there. This is not a shot at the Eagles at all. This is a shot at every other team that's trading players to fill the holes that the Eagles have. Why are you filling those holes? You let them bleed out. You let them suffer. You don't let them try. You don't try to help them win a back-to-back championship. The Eagles are a damn good team already. They don't need your help. And every time you help them, you ruin the chances of maybe you making the move. Trade them to a different team with a worse record. Get a better pick. But do not trade them to the defending champs. That's why they are the defending champs. They make these deals to fill the holes they have throughout the season. They let that player walk after the season and get a 3rd or 4th round pick in compensation and then use that pick to do the exact same damn thing next year. Stop helping the Eagles. Stop helping the Chiefs, the Bills. Stop helping the teams that are on the top of the league. I want my Lions to trade for a defensive end. Guess what? Nobody's just handing them out for free, except maybe the Dolphins apparently for 3rd round picks, which is exactly what the Eagles are going to get next year when they let them walk and get a compensatory pick. Good job, Howie Roseman and the Eagles. Hey, credit to you guys. The rest of you guys trading these players, even the Ravens. I'm shocked at that. You know Jair Alexander is going to go over there and be great for them. If he's not, I'll be shocked. I'm surprised that the Ravens traded him away, but I thought it was weird when he was inactive for Thursday's game. And then comes out Friday, he's traded. That's why he was inactive for the game. So I'm always shocked when people want to help the people that are beating the shit out of them every time they see him. I'm always shocked when you want to help the defending champ when you're trying to become a champ. Now, the Dolphins are becoming a champ this year, but trade him to a different team, man. I get he might want to go win. Guess what? He doesn't have that say. He doesn't have a no trade clause. Trade his ass to what helps your team out the best. You want to do right by players. I understand that. But trading him to the defending champs, maybe a little too right. Right? Uh, but we're going to get into these most likely trade candidates that I have here before tomorrow's deadline. On offense, wide receivers, 5 guys here I think are highly likely to be traded. Not a definite, but these are the guys that I would be looking at if I'm looking about, who could be traded. Calvin Ridley from Tennessee, we talked about him. I just talked about him, my injury thing. When I started him, he got hurt. I think part of why they're holding him out is because they don't want that hamstring to be hurt anymore because they plan on trading him. Definitely a lot of teams, Bills, Chiefs. I mean, Chiefs not so much anymore, but Bills are definitely a team looking for a wide receiver. The Jags could be looking for a wide receiver now because they won again. They're what, 6 and are they 7-2? No, I think they're 6-2. Yeah, because they already had their bye. So I think they're 6 and Jags are 6-2 right now. They could definitely be looking for one of these wide receivers. Handful of other teams, but Jacoby Myers, another obvious candidate that we all talked about. Everybody's talking about right now. He could be traded. I think he could be traded to the Patriots, if you want me to be honest, especially with Booty, depending on how hard that injury is. He could end up right back in New England where he started. And McDaniels already knows how to use them, and he already knows how to deal with McDaniels. Definitely a move I could see happening. Saints wide receiver Rashid Shaheed. I know Olave's still been in talks. They also said they were trying to re-sign him to a long-term deal. I think Shaheed is more likely to be traded. He got a little banged up last week. We'll see what happens with that. But he played yesterday, so I'm guessing he's healthy enough to be traded. Let's put it that way. And you don't have to be healthy to be traded anymore, apparently. So, but Rashid Shaheed, I think, is likely being traded. Colts wide receiver A.D. Mitchell. I think there's a guy that's likely to be traded. Alec Pierce is back. He's playing great. The Doolin kid was banged up, missed yesterday, but he's filled in similar to what A.D. Mitchell's doing. And they still got Pittman. They still got Warren. They still got, what's the other kids? Josh Downs. And A.D. Mitchell, after his blunder, he hasn't been involved. I think he's a player that could be on the move. And then Browns wide receiver Jerry Jeudy. I know they re-signed him this year, but Browns are going downhill. Jeudy hasn't done shit this year. If a team's looking for a guy that maybe they can get cheap and help the Browns get some draft picks for next year, Jeudy could be a guy on the move. Quarterback, I think the obvious one is Kirk Cousins. We all know that. Washington could be calling Atlanta and seeing if they want to trade Cousins and bring him home. Not as likely, but I still think Cousins could be moved. If there is a quarterback that's going to be traded, more than likely it's him. Maybe a Joe Milton from Dallas. Maybe the Cowboys could turn that turn that player into something just because of the potential he has. But it's hard for a guy to come in, learn a new offense, and to a relevant team, I guess is the way to put it. Running backs that could be traded. Alvin Kamara. I know he said he didn't want to be traded a few weeks ago. A couple more losses. The way he played yesterday, the fumble that basically got him benched yesterday. He could be on his way out of New Orleans. That's all there is to it. I think the Saints could be trading a handful of players. And yes, you still have to field a team, but they're not winning any games this year. Shaheed, Kamara. I don't think Olave is getting traded. Maybe Jawan Johnson could, though, but that'd be a surprise to me. But Kamara is the more likely one from that running back room. It sucked that they lost Kendre Miller. They would have to sign somebody, maybe trade for a Michael Carter from Arizona or something like that. They should have just picked him up off waivers if that was the case, though. Or maybe they just want to switch it up and get somebody else. Jerome Ford, Cleveland Browns running back. I think he could be traded. I think he's a guy could end up with some teams that need a power back, need a guy that is just a good vet. Even the Giants, possibly. I think they're going to be fine going with Singletary and Tracy, so I don't really see them making a move for a running back. I think more than likely they're obviously going to be looking at wide receivers if they need one. But just a case of these are 3 running backs. Kamara, Chuba Hubbard is the last guy with Jerome Ford and Kamara. Chuba Hubbard, I think, could be on the way out. I know Carolina has the respect for him. They gave him a deal, all that good stuff. Rico Dowdle's balling out, man. That's just all there is to it. They drafted the Trevor Etienne, Travis's brother. He's looked solid in his limited opportunities. So if they could get something for Hubbard, maybe a defensive player, maybe some draft picks, maybe an offensive lineman, they could definitely move Hubbard, and he could go to a team that is in need of a running back and be right back into that starting role for fantasy purposes. Tight ends, I think, could get traded. Mark Andrews, I know he had a 2-touchdown game last week, but I've believed Mark Andrews could get traded all season. He is Lamar's best buddy. And it's not super likely he gets traded, but I think if there is a tight end traded, it's him or it's David Njoku, the Cleveland Browns tight end. I know Njoku says he doesn't want to be traded. Cleveland doesn't really care about that. If the Giants called tomorrow and asked to offer the third-round pick for David Njoku, I got a good feeling David Njoku would be on the Giants team. Now, Theo Johnson's been balling out there for him in his opportunities with Jackson Dart. But I think that's a player that either one of these guys could end up with the Giants just to give them another option, man. Theo Johnson could play a big slot player. He's capable of that. And Njoku and Andrews could be one of those tight ends that is lined up in line at all times just to help that rookie quarterback, man. No, they're not winning games this year, but you want to get that kid developed as much as possible there in New York. So definitely a possibility. And the Jets can be looking at receivers for that case and maybe a tight end to go with Mason Taylor and have Mason Taylor play that big slot like you see with Loveland, like you see with Harold Fannin. These guys are these mobile pass-catching tight ends are playing more of a big slot this year and even a little bit last year instead of that inline tight end all the time. Mason Taylor, I think he could do that, and you could bring in one of these vets there to the Jets as well to see if they could help out Justin Fields. But offensive linemen, 3 guys I think that could be moved this week. Evan Neal, guard for the Giants, just not involved. He's a high prospect that just hasn't worked out for the Giants. He's been in and out of the lineup for them, and definitely a guy that other teams may be willing to take a chance on for a 6th-round pick, being that he was a late first, early second? I forget what it was, but high coming out of Alabama. He was a high prospect, man, expected to be really good player, and just hasn't panned out there in New York. That could be New York's issue. That could be Evan Neal's issue, but I still believe a team is willing to take a chance on him. Another guy just like that, Jackson Powers Johnson, the Raiders guard that's been in and out of the starting lineup all year. Not sure what's going on there with the new regimen with Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly and why Powers Johnson can't get on the field consistently and be the player that everybody expected him to be coming out of college. But he's a guy that the Raiders could be looking to move. They're going to be looking to move pieces anyways with that loss yesterday. There's little hope of them making the playoffs, especially in the division they're in, or even as a wild card the way some of these other teams are playing. So at the end of the day, I think Powers Johnson could be a player that's moved this week. And then the last one, offensive tackle, Braxton Jones for the Chicago Bears. I think the Bears got a couple players that could be moved, but Braxton Jones has been demoted a few weeks ago for the backup. He hasn't started since, and he's a guy that some teams, Houston's prime example, they could trade one of those mini receivers they have to the Bears and get a Braxton Jones. They could trade maybe a backup corner to the Bears and get a Braxton Jones, or they could just trade a pick for Braxton Jones. But definitely these 3 offensive linemen, Houston's probably the team that I'm looking at that says they're more than likely to trade for one of these guys if they're trading for an offensive lineman. Defensive side of the ball, defensive lineman and tackle, whatever you want to call them, for the Tennessee Titans. Titans are another one of those teams. They're on the losing end of a lot of games. They're going to be looking to move people. They already have moved a guy. Other guys on that are included in that is their defensive lineman or / linebacker for Arden Key's case. But Draymond Jones, defensive end, defensive tackle for Tennessee, and linebacker, defensive end, Arden Key are 2 players that I think are getting traded. Definitely one of them almost positively is, just for the fact that they have value, and the Titans need to start thinking about next year, start thinking about stocking up for next year's draft and getting players to surround Cam Ward and that team with. Quincy Williams, linebacker for the Jets. I know a lot of people talk about his brother, Quentin Williams, but Quincy Williams is the more likely player getting moved out of here, the linebacker there. I don't know if the Jets are going to be trading a lot of players, but obviously the names like Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, those guys are already being chattered about, but less likely to be traded. Quincy Williams is a guy that they could afford to lose a little bit on defense to gain a little bit somewhere else, whether it's draft pick or offensive player. And Quincy Williams is a talented player that definitely could be moved. Linebacker Logan Williams for the Bengals, another one linebacker that could be on the move, man. He's had 100 tackles the last, 3-4 years. And teams that are suffering injuries, the Bills with Matt Milano, a couple other teams that are missing players right now. The Broncos with their injuries they're dealing with. Maybe they go get a guy like Logan Wilson to help out and see what could happen. Defensive end, Kayvon Thibodeau. While we're talking about the Giants trading offensive linemen or trading 4 other position players, Kayvon Thibodeau is a depth piece that is a luxury to them right now that they could get a lot in return for after drafting Abdul Carter this year. He's also not been the guy that they expected him to be. So I can understand why they drafted Abdul Carter, the talent he has, and the willingness to replace Thibodeau. This has been a projected possible trade candidate all season. I think it could happen now with them losing another game. And then a couple of corners, Tariq Woolen from the Seahawks. I think he could still be on the move with that contract and with the young guys that they got there. Now they're dealing with some injuries still in the back end. We'll see if they end up moving him or not. But if there is a player that Seahawks can move, Tariq Woolen is definitely him. And then the cornerback for another Saints player, Alontae Taylor, the cornerback there for New Orleans. I think he's a valuable piece that contending teams that need corners could trade for. Lions, Packers, Vikings. If the Vikings get to winning, these are NFC North could just trade for this guy. Period. Just them alone. And then a handful of other teams could definitely use a player like him on their team. So, surprise trades, these are trades that would surprise me if they actually happened. I already talked about Chris Olave. I don't think that's happening, but he's one of those guys, if he does get traded, again, Packers, Bills, teams like that could be looking at a guy for Chris Olave and be willing to give up a higher pick, a second-round pick. Jalen Waddle, I think it's going to take a second to fifth at least. They say they want a first. That's why I believe a second would work, or early second. But if you're getting early second, it's for a bad team. Jalen Waddle might not. Again, the team controls his rights, but maybe he doesn't want to go there. Maybe he pulls some nonsense. I don't think that's the case. I think he's tired of losing, would prefer to go to a winner. And I think a winner like the Bills should be willing to give up that end of the round, first-round pick because they're a playoff team. And if you can get Jalen Waddle with Josh Allen, I don't think it would be fair. I don't think they would do that in division, but they're the Dolphins. They do a lot of dumb shit. So we'll see what happens going forward. Not a player I'm looking to be moved though. Another one, Trey Hendrickson. I know the talk is he could be moved. The Bengals are idiots, man. Their ownership is terrible, and they have no idea what the fuck they're doing there. And it's been on showcase since Carson Palmer retired. Fucking 20 years ago, 25 years ago, whatever it was when I was young watching this guy. The Bengals don't know what they're doing. We saw this in the offseason with the rookies, not being able to get them signed, having to wait out for Trey Hendrickson until he wants to play football and they don't want to pay him, so they end up reworking his contract, and he's still going to become a free agent after this year. They should trade him. They're terrible record. They don't have a chance of winning, more than likely, unless there's a slew of injuries to the rest of the division opponents. Trey Hendrickson should be on the move to a contender, to a winner, and someone that is willing to pay him the money. Will he? Probably not. That's why I say it'd be a surprise if the Bengals actually did it. Off the radar trade candidates that nobody's really talking about, DJ Moore for the Bears and Cole Kmet. Both of them. Cole Kmet's been mentioned a little bit, but him suffering a concussion yesterday doesn't help. But the way Colston Loveland played should tell the Bears they're good to get rid of Cole Kmet if somebody's looking for a tight end. DJ Moore, on the other hand, he's got a bigger contract. It'd be harder to trade him, but I think the Bears want to. He had 2 touchdowns yesterday. It was like they were putting on display because Rome Odunze had 0 catches on 3 targets. He's been their number 1 receiver all season. To me, they were putting DJ Moore on display. Look at all the wonderful things he can do. He could do this for you type of stuff. He's out there. They put their salesman hat on and started trying to sell him. And I think he's a player that could be traded before tomorrow's deadline. Jamison Williams. Now, this is a surprise one, mainly because they just paid Jamison Williams in the offseason. I thought he was a trade candidate before that. I'm a Lions fan. Listen, I know what Jamison Williams is. He stretches the defense. He's got the speed for days. He's lightning fast. He's also not a complete wide receiver. They also spent 3 third-round picks to draft Isaac Tesla. They also just lost yesterday to the Vikings because of defensive issues. So if there's a situation where they could trade Jamison Williams for a stud defensive player, maybe one of these defensive ends we're talking about, Jalen Phillips should have been that guy. There's definitely a chance that Jamison Williams is on the move. Like I said, these are off-the-radar moves. These are players that nobody's talking about being traded, that it could be traded. A.J. Brown, I think he should be more in a surprise. I'd be surprised if he got moved, but definitely could get moved. I don't even think the Eagles want to move him. I just think that there's something going on in that locker room and in that with the coaching staff, the OC, everything that A.J. Brown is unhappy with. And you don't want a distraction if you're trying to go back-to-back Super Bowls. Did A.J. Brown help them win that Super Bowl? Yes. Did he show what he's still capable of before the bye week, before he got banged up? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, Devontae Smith's a hell of a receiver. Godair's been playing his ass off this year. Barkley's still the stud he is. And they win with defense, running the ball, and play action. And they don't need A.J. Brown for every play. So I could definitely see him being a surprise trade, even though none of us think it's going to happen. I think he's still a possible trade. And then the last one on this list, this is saucy because it's Sauce fucking Gardner. The Jets could get a haul for Sauce Gardner. I'm talking about a haul. And if there's somewhere that he could be traded, it's to the Detroit Lions. Imagine Jameson Williams and some picks going to the Jets for Sauce Gardner. They already got the Aaron Glenn, Dan Campbell connection. The Jets need a receiver. The Lions need a cornerback. To me, this is a dream scenario. To me, I doubt it's going to happen. Maybe the Lions go sign or trade one of these Jacoby Myers or something after that to kind of fill that secondary role, to let Tesla come in, but still the vet there to help out. This would be what I would do if I'm the Lions. I would call the Jets today and go, I'll trade you Jameson Williams and whatever pick for Sauce Gardner and whatever pick. And then call somebody else and go, call the Raiders and go, I'll trade you this 5th round pick for Jacoby Myers today. You want a 5th and a 6th, whatever. But get something done, a 5th and Avonte Maddox or whatever, something like that done to where you can fill that hole for that 2nd and 3rd receiver role, and you get a true number one corner. Because although Terrion Arnold was back yesterday, Terrion Arnold is not what we expected him to be when we traded up to draft him to this point. Too many penalties, not enough production. He got his first career interception yesterday after a year and a half. So you go get Sauce, Brad Holmes, and make the Lions fan base happy and make them a true Super Bowl contender. Other than that, guys, we're going to get out of here. Hope you're having a good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Good luck in trading. Make some trades in your fantasy league, too. Screw it. The NFL's making trades. Why don't you? We're going to get out of here, though. Hope everyone's having a good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Until next time, I'm out. First down punch!